New Terra never slept, but it did get quiet between 2 and 4 a.m. when even the neon seemed tired. Marcus Reed liked that hour. Route 47's last loop was always empty, just him, the electric hum, and the endless rain streaking the windshield like tears. The city couldn't cry anymore. At 2:17 exactly, she appeared under the cracked shelter of the refugee terminal. Barely 4'10" in heavy boots, deep violet-purple skin shining wet, long blonde hair braided tight down her back like a warrior's standard. 4 arms, 2 crossed over her chest, 2 clutching a torn duffel, made her look like she was holding herself together by force of will. Other drivers sneered, called her the purple gremlin, and made her ride in the back with the drunks and the broken. Marcus simply reached across and popped the front door. "Seats dry up here, ma'am." She hesitated, golden eyes scanning him for mockery, then climbed the steps. Water dripped from her braid onto the rubber mat. Their fingers brushed when she fed coins into the reader, her skin velvet warm despite the cold. A spark jumped between them, sharp and unmistakable. She smelled like ozone and something sweet, like distant lightning over flower fields. Her name was Keshrovaln, former Varani shock trooper. Her species grew soldiers 8 to 10 feet tall. Kes had topped out at 4'10" and been laughed out of every barracks, every clan, every future. Now she slept on terminal benches and ate whatever credits could buy. 30 nights in a row she took the same seat beside him. She never spoke at first, just watched the city lights fracture across the glass with huge amber eyes that caught every color and gave nothing back. Marcus started, leaving his spare jacket draped over the rail. She started leaving half of whatever she'd scavenged: spice bread, honey cakes that tasted like sunrise on the dashboard, with a tiny nod. Neither said thank you. Both understood gratitude too big for words. Some nights the silence between them felt warmer than any conversation he'd ever had. Some nights he caught her staring at his hands on the wheel and wondered what those 4 violet palms would feel like against his skin. He told himself it was nothing. He lied. A planetary storm took out the entire grid. The bus died in the underpass beneath old Skyway, dark, echoing, perfect hunting ground for predators wearing uniforms. 3 off-duty enforcers, still drunk from shore leave, spotted Kes in the back and decided a runt Zeno was tonight's entertainment. Marcus saw them in the mirror, big men, cruel smiles moving in. He reached under the seat for the emergency hammer, heart pounding with memories of battles he never wanted to fight again. He stood, ready to die standing if that's what it took. He never got 2 steps. Kes moved like a violet comet. 4 arms unfolded in a blur of controlled violence, elbows, knees, palms striking pressure points older than humanity. Her long blonde braid whipped like a banner. 30 seconds. That was all it took. 1 enforcer sobbed into the floor mat, clutching broken fingers. Another spat blood and teeth. The third ran screaming into the dark. Kes never raised her voice, never lost the calm center that made her more terrifying than any 8-foot Varani berserker. When the emergency lights flickered back, she stood trembling in the aisle, violet skin flushed almost black with shame. "I didn't want you to see the monster," she whispered, voice cracking for the first time. Marcus stepped over the groaning bodies, took off his jacket, and draped it around her shoulders. It hung to her calves like a cloak. "I saw the woman who just protected 30 strangers who never even learned her name," he said, voice rough. "And maybe me." She looked up, way up at him, golden eyes wide and wet. Slowly, carefully, she stepped forward and pressed her forehead to his chest. 4 arms circled his waist as far as they could reach. His 2 wrapped around her shoulders, swallowing her completely. Rain hammered the roof. Inside the dead bus, they held each other like survivors of different wars who had finally found the same shore. Her braid soaked his shirt. His heartbeat thundered against her cheek. Neither moved for a long, long time. After that night, she claimed the front seat permanently. Marcus started brewing 2 cups of terrible replicated coffee. Kes brought Varani honey cakes that glowed faintly and tasted like childhood. Summers neither of them had truly owned. They talked in the spaces between stops. He told her about the war that left shrapnel in his thigh and nightmares in his head. She unbuttoned her jacket one night and showed him the lattice of ritual scars across her back on her. Marks her clan had tried to burn away because she was too small to be Varani. His fingers traced the raised lines with something close to worship. Hers traced the burn scars on his forearms with the same reverence. The heater broke in week 9. The only warmth was body heat. Kes climbed into his lap without ceremony, 4 arms looping around his neck, knees bracketing his hips. She weighed nothing and everything. Marcus wrapped his coat around them both, cocooning them in worn leather and warmth. Her blonde hair spilled over his chest like molten sunlight. They kissed for the first time, somewhere past 3 a.m., slow and wondering, coffee and honey on their tongues. When she sighed his name, Marcus, it sounded like the first note of a song the galaxy had forgotten. His large hands learned the geography of her, the strong curve where neck met shoulder, the velvet texture of deep purple skin, the way she arched when he brushed the sensitive spot just beneath her lowest set of ribs. Some nights they only held hands, his one engulfing 2 of hers watching the city slide by. Some nights kisses turned hungry, clothes pushed aside just enough for skin on skin, her 4 palms mapping his chest while he buried his face in her hair and breathed her in like oxygen. They never went further than that on the bus. The driver's cabin was sacred, a church made of rain and neon. But every touch promised more, promised everything, promised home. 6 months of nights had turned strangers into something vital. The twin suns rose rose gold over the empty depot, painting the windshield in fire. Marcus killed the engine, turned to her, and spoke the words he'd rehearsed in his head for weeks. I'm 6'4" and I spent my whole life feeling too big for the world, like I took up space I didn't deserve. You're 4'10" and you make the whole damn galaxy feel safe just by existing. I love you, Keshraval. Be mine. Let me be yours. Tears tracked down violet cheeks. She stood on the bottom step so their eyes were level, 4 hands rising to cradle his face, blonde braid falling forward like a curtain. I was invisible until the night you looked down and saw every star I ever wanted to be. They kissed like the universe itself was watching, soft, then desperate, then reverent. His jacket hit the floor. Her uniform top followed. Dawnlight poured over deep purple skin and human scars, turning them both golden. He lifted her easily. She wrapped legs and arms around him, trusting his strength the way he trusted hers. They fit together the way constellations fit the sky. Every inch of her was worshipped lips tracing collarbones, tongue following the line of a scar, hands learning the weight and heat of her. She gasped his name when he knelt, when he tasted her, when 4 sets of fingers tangled in his hair and held him exactly where she needed. Later, when he rose and she guided him inside, it was slow and perfect and cosmic, her tightness, his careful restraint. The way she clenched around him with a broken cry that sounded like gratitude. After, they stayed joined, foreheads touching, breathing each other's air. I love you, he whispered against her lips. Every inch, every scar, every impossible inch of you. She laughed through happy tears and kissed him until the suns were fully up and the city stirred around their quiet, perfect world. A year later, Route 47 was legend. Passengers begged for the night shift because everyone knew. Board Marcus. Reed's bus and you were untouchable. He rebuilt the cabin, lowered the passenger seat so Kes could see over the dash, reinforced the frame for her strength. She wore his old jacket like a dress, sleeves rolled a dozen times. and a ring forged from shuttle titanium on a chain around her neck, too big for any of her fingers, perfect against her heart. Her warrior braid now carried a single lock of his auburn hair woven in, pale against gold. They bought a tiny apartment above the depot with a window that looked out on the landing lights. Every morning off shift they made love slow and lazy for Violet arms, pinning his wrists while she rode him with teasing smiles, or his large hands lifting her against the shower wall while water traced paths between their bodies. Laughter echoed when she flipped him effortlessly and he surrendered with a grin. When he teased her sensitive lower ribs until she begged in 3 languages, some idiot still whispered she was too small. Marcus just smiled, kissed the top of her blonde head, and watched troublemakers suddenly remember urgent appointments elsewhere the moment Kes stepped aboard. Refugees left offerings on the dash flowers, coins, handwritten thanks. Children drew pictures of a tiny purple heroine with 4 arms saving the world. On quiet nights, Marcus drove while Kes slept curled against his side, one of her hands tucked into his, the other resting over his heart. The city lights blurred past like shooting stars. The galaxy remained vast, cold and cruel, but on Route 47, every night at 2:17, a gentle giant and his fierce little warrior proved that love isn't measured in height. It's measured in the way you make someone feel limitless. And together, they were infinite.